Okay, it's Michael Benner. Um, it's March 31st, 2025. And this is a lecture for my class, KINO Soviet Film, Stetson University, spring 2026. Talking about Tarkovsky and two movies in particular, Andrei Rublyov, 1964, and Stalker, 1979. This replaces the lecture I would usually give introducing Stalker. When I set up Andrei Tarkovsky's, I pre-wrote the script. Every once in a while you'll see me glance over, mostly not. My basic claim, these are two very different films, Andrei Rublyov and Stalker. Very different in terms of setting, story world, historical texture, but they are unmistakably the work of the same director. If you understand what Tarkovsky cares about as a filmmaker, then Rublyov and Stalker begin to look less like two separate monuments and more like different chambers in a cathedral. Okay, a few basic facts. Tarkovsky, born 1932. He was born before World War II. That's an important distinction. He was like what, in his teens during World War II. So he remembers it very clearly. Died in 1986. He left the Soviet Union. He studied film at the All-Union State Cinematography Institute, and his first feature, Ivan's Childhood, 1962, that was his student film, made his reputation. Rublyov, 1966. And then we're going to skip some very great films, but we're just going to skip them. Solaris, that was remade in the United States with George Clooney. The Mirror, very good film, hard to follow. And Stalker, 1979. After leaving the Soviet Union, he made a couple more films. He made Nostalgia in Italy, and in Sweden, he made The Sacrifice. Britannica's summary of him is still the right one. He is a director marked by striking visual images, visionary symbolism, and notable scarcity of conventional plot. The last point is important. Tarkovsky is not a filmmaker who's big into plots. He's not like Hitchcock. He's not even especially interested in narrative efficiency. He's a filmmaker of duration, pressure, atmosphere, matter, weather, and spiritual ordeal. That's why I keep pointing out, like, hey, look, windows, horses, rain, fire. In many respects, he's a filmmaker of the elements. So what is Stalker? It's a 1979 Soviet film, and if you heard what if I described it, its essentials, you wouldn't think it's the same film. It's a science fiction film based on a novel, very famous novel by the Strugatsky brothers, Roadside Picnic. Its premise is simple and unforgettable. A hired guide, Stalker, played by this guy, Kaidanovsky, great actor. He leads two people, a writer and a professor, into the forbidden zona, a restricted site that was closed by the military some time ago for some reason, something. Very Tarkovsky. Nothing's explained. And they're searching for the room. And what we know is that in the room, your deepest desire, what you truly wish, comes true. They never get to the room. They never enter the room in any case. So, classic Russian plot. It's like Three Sisters. It's like Chekhov's play Three Sisters. Three people don't go to a room. That's the plot. That's really actually quite a good plot description. Kaidanovsky is Stalker. I already said that. We see again Anatoly Solzhenitsyn as the writer and Nikolai Grinko as the professor. And interestingly enough, this actress, Alisa Frindlich, who appears in Aseni Marathon as well. She's quite a remarkable actress, really, who can play both the stalker's wife. We see her writhing on the floor in the first 15 or 20 minutes of the movie, and also this button-tight, uptight Soviet bureaucrat. That's in Autumn Marathon. So if someone says a Soviet science fiction film about a mysterious Zon and a wish-granting room, you might expect spectacle, special effects, world building, and some kind of explanatory mythology. And you don't get any of those with Tarkovsky. All you get is industrial ruins and no explanation. I guess the whole film, it takes place in Stalker's bedroom, a bar, and the zone. And none of them are metaphysical. None of them are sorry, just making sure the microphone works. None of them are extraterrestrial. In fact, if anything, they border on the banal. Just check out the peeling paint in the stalker's bedroom or the dirty tables in the bar. So think of this as Tarkovsky's take on science fiction. I guess it really is that first and foremost, it's a religious allegory. It's a political reflection, and it's a meditation on film itself. So its production history is really famous. I'll just mention that Tarkovsky meant to film it in Tajikistan. There was a terrible earthquake there in 1977, so they moved it. They shot it again, and then for reasons that we don't need to go into, Tarkovsky was dissatisfied with it, so he shot it for a third time around Tallinn in Estonia, this time with another cinematography, Kniuzinski. So even the making of the film is one of repetition, remaking, damage, loss. So while you're watching, I want you to watch for a couple things. First and foremost, the thing that everybody notes, but everybody gets confused about. The film starts off in, first of all, you think it's black and white. It's called sepia, S-P-I-A, kind of a brown and white. And then suddenly it's in color. And one of the great things is if you ask someone who's seen the movie many times, when does that color change? They can never answer the question. It's so subtle. It's so sudden. It's so unremarkable. So watch for that. Watch for the shift in color. Watch for how hypnotic it is. There are long periods, I might even say most of the film, that are just quiet meditations. The train ride at the beginning, the walk through the prairie inside the zona, the long crawl across water, the crawl across the dunes, the sand dunes, the long and terribly confusing conversation that writer and stalker have. The dog. You'll see what I mean. Let me make some connections between Andrei Rublyov and Stalker. The most obvious bridge is casting. We get this actor Solzhenitsyn in Andrei Rublyov. He plays Andrei Rublyov, and he reappears in Stalker as writer. And Grinko you'll also recognize. He's Daniel Chorny. He's the tall monk in Andrei Rublyov, and he reappears in Stalker as professor. Then there's Stalker. And let me just say, there's a lot of parallels between Andrei Rublev, the artist in the 15th century, and Stalker. First and foremost, I would say both spend most of the movie watching. Watching is an act for them. You think that you're watching them, but what you're actually doing is watching them watch the world. Second connection, the overlap, is the obvious ethical format. And I'll just say it really briefly. It's thoroughly anti-power, anti-authoritarianism, thoroughly for artist and free expression. That's what I meant earlier when I said it was a political statement. Neither movie does authority look really great. In both movies, Stalker, the character Stalker, and Andrei Rublev, again, the character Andrei Rublev, they're both watchers, they're both sufferers. They act with their eyes. What else did I want to say? Let me just say the setting, the diegetic world. One thing that differentiates them is Andrei Rublev is set in the 15th century, and Stalker is set sometime in the 20th century. We don't really know when. It's timeless. That looks like very different sets, but look at how linked those two worlds are. Think about windows, think about nature, think about grass, think about rain, think about water. The two movies, although they're like 500 years apart, in a way share almost the same set. And then last, let me say that Tarkovsky Stalker is really famous in Russia, the Soviet Union, Ukraine, Belarus, because people say that it foretold Chernobyl. Stalker comes out in 79, and Chernobyl happens in 88, May of 88. And a lot of people say that Stalker foretold Chernobyl. Sure, not exactly. Chernobyl was a terrible atomic accident that the Soviets tried to hide, and then they buried the problem in a giant concrete sarcophagus, and now the area, the perimeter around Chernobyl, which is called the zona, is open to tourism. And you can, in small groups, go and tour Chernobyl now. So, in a sense, Stalker is eerily correct, because Stalker is set. There's some terrible accident, and now there's a perimeter where time is stopped, where no one lives. Okay, let's see. I have a bunch more that I wanted to say, but I'm not going to say it. And then, ready? I'm just going to give you, ready? Last thing. Fast comparison. Everybody loves these. Andrei Rublev, think of the following words: historical, episodic, public, medieval, mostly black and white, about the artist and the cost of art. Stalker, modern-ish, concentrated, intimate, industrial, sepia, color, guide, desire, faith, and the cost of leading others towards truth. Okay, enjoy the movie. I'll see you on Thursday.